There's other starting running backs also available, though. This is one of the few weeks where we get a lot of actual talent at the top end of the waiver wire. That's Chuba Hubbard and potentially D'Onta Foreman. Now, Foreman barely cracks this list at 51% rostered, so it feels a little bit like cheating to have him in here. But I did want to mention which one of them I prefer, why I prefer them. A lot of people are going to tell you to lean to Chuba Hubbard, even though at 37% rostered, he is not the more widely owned option because he started the game, 9 carries, 63 yards, touchdown, looked good, 2 catches and 10 yards as well. He did play about 60% of the snaps through the first 3 quarters, saw 66% of the carries through the first 3 quarters. It was about a 60-40 split favoring Chuba, and Chuba looked pretty damn good for what it's worth. I still have always been a big Foreman guy, and Chuba did get hurt, and that's kind of the rub with him is he's not as stable as a beast like Foreman is. And once Chuba was out, we saw Foreman rip off a 60-yarder, 27-yarder, chunk gain after chunk gain, ultimately going 15 carries, 118 yards, while also adding 2 catches for 27 yards on his 2 targets. So yes, Chuba was the first option up. I don't think that really matters when Foreman looked as good as he did with Chuba a little banged up. I think Foreman enters this week as the number 1 guy here and ultimately takes a hold of that. Remember last year, he was a top 20 running back during those last weeks, 12 through 17, when Derrick Henry was down. He took over that backfield. He had 3 of those weeks were in the top 15 running back performances. He finished with the 8th most rushing yards in the NFL, 264 in that span as a starter, 13th among all backs in yards before contact per attempt. Like the guy was churning, D'Onta Foreman was. So I do think he's the ultimate guy that takes over this backfield. I think it will always be about a 60-40 split, but I think that Foreman ends up being at the top of that, even if Chuba started that way this week. I'm a bigger fan of Foreman. All that to say, though, Chuba is the one that's more likely to be out there in your backfield. Maybe he is. This is all guessing. I'm not a team insider by any means. Chuba was the first man up. So if he's out there in your league, he still also deserves to be on rosters, and both of them are very viable week 8 against Atlanta. 7th most points to running backs, certainly a defense that allows plenty of big plays, plenty of scoring opportunities. So both of those guys are in play in week 8. I do prefer Foreman to Hubbard, just very slightly. Both of them great pickups, both worth about 20 to 25%, a little less than Edwards, but right there. Not, again, similar to Edwards, cap ceilings in that it's not like Rashad White if something happened to Lenny. It's not like Alexander Madison if something happened to Dalvin Cook, 2 guys we're going to talk about momentarily. But still, starting running backs, the offense also looked pretty competent with P.J. Walker. So maybe this Panthers team could actually have some viable running back 2 numbers down the stretch here between these 2 guys. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.